They wouldn't pay Cristiano Ronaldo what he deserved. They benched Gareth Bale. They forced Iker Casillas out so brutally that his parents had to step into the press to say that the club had made their son the villain in his final years. They sold Angel Di Maria even when he didn't want to leave. They exiled Rodrigo after 2 Champions League runs, and they wouldn't even let Modric finish his twilight with a reduced role and salary. Say what you want to say about whether Florentino Perez's ruthless methods were successful in the end, but let's take a trip back in the last decade to see the graveyard of betrayal for Real Madrid, or as I like to call them, No Loyalty FC. For 16 years, Raul was Real Madrid. He wasn't just their captain, he was their identity. A La Fabrica graduate, the all-time top scorer, and the most appearances for the club. He was the face of the Los Blancos through the Galactico era, European glory, and a huge part of their domestic dominance. He was a player who bled white, who turned down bigger paychecks elsewhere to stay loyal to the badge. But in 2010, everything changed. Florentino Perez had returned for a second stint as president, and a new wave of Galacticos were on the rise. Ronaldo, Benzema, Ozil, Jose Mourinho was coming in, and suddenly Raul, now 33 years of age, was no longer in the picture. He wanted to stay, he said so publicly. He even offered to take a reduced role and cut his wages to remain at the club. But Madrid, without ceremony or sentiment, made it clear that it was time to go. There was no farewell season, no testimonial match, no standing ovation at the Bernabeu. Just a quiet exit to Schalke, where Raul would go on to show, once again, that class is permanent. He led Schalke to a Champions League semi-finals. He scored 40 goals in 2 seasons, and even from abroad, he refused to badmouth the club that had cast him aside. "I will never speak badly of Madrid," he said, but it hurt. Raul deserved a statue, a stand, a send-off, but instead, he got a handshake and a boarding pass. In 2009, Real Madrid went on a Galactico spending spree, and among the big names, there was one man who stood out: Kaká, the reigning Ballon d'Or winner just 2 years prior, a devout, elegant, world-class playmaker. Madrid paid £67 million to sign him from AC Milan, unveiling him first, even before Cristiano Ronaldo. But Kaká never truly felt like a priority. While injuries such as his chronic knee problems were a factor, what stung most weren't just his declining minutes, but how quickly the club seemed to give up on him, with Jose Mourinho publicly stating that Kaká was not in his plans just 2 years after the signing. What's worse, Real Madrid would block his return to AC Milan, even if Kaká was willing to reduce his wages. He was benched behind Mesut Ozil, often left off the Champions League squad entirely, and rarely given a consistent run of form. And yet, he left without bitterness. "I don't have anger, I have memories," he said. But for one of the most beloved players of a generation who wanted to succeed at Real Madrid, the club never truly stood by him. By the summer of 2013, Mesut Ozil had become the creative heart of Real Madrid, a magician between the lines, Cristiano Ronaldo's favourite teammate, and arguably the most consistent playmaker in Europe. But despite his brilliance, what followed was one of the most confusing, sudden, and emotionally jarring exits in Real Madrid history. After providing more assists than any player in Europe's top leagues between 2010 and 2013, his chemistry with Ronaldo was unmatched, with Ronaldo even saying that he was angry about him leaving after the fact. He was the final pass before the celebration, the tempo setter, and the mind behind the machine. But after signing Isco and Gareth Bale in the summer of 2013, Florentino Perez sought to rebalance the books, and Ozil, despite being untouchable to fans, was deemed expendable. The club began briefing media outlets that Ozil lacked professionalism, with reports surfacing that he had focus issues, didn't take care of his body, and was distracted by nightlife, all of which many players denied. The Madrid dressing room was furious. Players, especially Ronaldo and Ramos, felt betrayed after Madrid sold him off for just £50 million to Arsenal. Ozil would later say, "I would have stayed at Madrid forever. I loved the club, the city, and the fans, but I had no choice." In an instant, Real Madrid's number 10 was gone, and with him went a level of flair and imagination the team never quite replaced. In 2014, Angel Di Maria was the best player on the pitch on the world's biggest stage, the Champions League final, La Decima. All Madrid fans remember. He was electric, 22 assists, a man possessed in the Champions League final. Even Diego Simeone said it. He broke the game. Yet within weeks, he was out the door. Why? Because Real Madrid wanted shiny new stars, James Rodriguez, Toni Kroos. President Florentino Perez said it was about Di Maria's wage demands, which Di Maria quickly said was a lie. In his own words, "I never asked to leave, they just didn't want me anymore." Carlo Ancelotti wanted him to stay. Di Maria brought balance, width, work rate, but upstairs they saw marketing charts, not football. And the final insult was on the morning of the 2014 World Cup final when they told Di Maria not to play so that they could sell him in the summer. "They forced me out," he said. "They forced me out." One of Madrid's greatest one-season wonders. Discarded for a PR campaign like he was nothing. Because in Madrid, sometimes greatness isn't enough, unless you're marketable. For over a decade, Iker Casillas was untouchable, a homegrown hero, the youngest goalkeeper to win the Champions League and a captain for club and country. He lifted La Liga trophies, Champions Leagues, and led Spain through their golden age, back-to-back Euros and a World Cup. A living legend. Yet by the end, he was treated like a liability. It began slowly. Jose Mourinho benched him, not for form, but for politics. Whispers of leaks to the press, questions of loyalty, and Casillas, who had once been the glue of Madrid's dressing room, suddenly found himself sidelined. Even after Mourinho's departure, the damage was done. Casillas was no longer untouchable. Critics called him finished, fans booed him at home. When he cried in press conferences, Madrid stayed silent. And in 2015, it ended the way no legend story ever should. No proper send-off, no testimonial match, no packed Bernabeu chanting his name, just a lonely, tearful press conference. Only after the backlash did Florentino Perez arrange a farewell, but it was too little, far too late. Casillas had given Madrid everything, his youth, his prime, his legacy, but when he needed dignity in return, they gave him the cold shoulder. But the worst of it all was yet to come. In 2018, Real Madrid betrayed the man who gave them everything. 438 games, 450 goals, 4 Champions Leagues, 4 Ballon d'Ors in white. He didn't just define an era, he created one. And yet by 2018, Cristiano Ronaldo felt unwanted. Despite winning a 3rd consecutive Champions League and finishing as the top scorer again, Ronaldo's contract demands were deemed as arrogance, even if they were modest by today's standards. While Lionel Messi's Barcelona contract was renewed at nearly double Ronaldo's wage, he expected the club he carried to respond. But they didn't. Behind the scenes, Perez had grown cold. Ronaldo, at age 33, was viewed as a depreciating asset, even after his greatest ever season. In the summer of 2018, he left, not with a grand farewell, but a short press release. For Madrid, he was always more than a player, but for the board, he was just another asset. And once he'd won them everything, they cashed out. Sergio Ramos joined Real Madrid in 2005 at just 19 years old. Over the next 16 years, he would become the heart, soul, and spine of the team. He captained Real Madrid to 4 Champions Leagues, 5 La Ligas, and had more than 670 appearances for the club. But his legacy isn't just about numbers, but moments. In the 94th minute, Ramos would save Madrid with a header in the 2014 Champions League final. The header that kept La Decima alive. He wasn't just a leader, but a saviour. Despite interest from Manchester United, PSG, and Chinese clubs offering absurd wages, Ramos stayed loyal. But in 2021, with his contract expiring, he entered negotiations for a renewal, and while he wanted a 2-year contract to secure some stability, Florentino Perez only offered 1, and while he asked for some time, he was quickly told that the time was up and he had to leave, even after he tried to accept the deal. There was no ceremony, no dignity, no negotiation. One of the greatest defenders in the club's history, a captain who had bled for the badge, was shown the door like a disposable part. Ramos said in his farewell press conference that he was never told that the offer had a deadline. He just wanted to stay. Sergio Ramos is Real Madrid's most decorated captain, a man who defined an era and lifted the club back to glory time and time again. But when it came time for the club to lift him, they turned their back. In 2013, Gareth Bale became the most expensive player in history when Real Madrid signed him from Tottenham for £100 million. Expectations were sky high, and he delivered. In his first season, he scored that iconic solo goal in the Copa del Rey final against Barcelona and the crucial extra-time header in the Champions League final against Atletico Madrid, helping to secure La Decima, Madrid's long-awaited 10th European title. Over the years, he racked up 5 Champions Leagues, 3 La Ligas, and countless highlight reel moments. But despite his success, cracks began to show, not in performance, but in perception. It began subtly. The media in Madrid criticizing him for not speaking Spanish fluently, teammates questioning his commitment due to his quiet and limited nature. But then came the injuries. Bale's recurring fitness issues saw him miss chunks of every season, but when fit, he performed, most notably scoring twice in the 2018 Champions League final, including one of the greatest goals in Champions League history. You'd think that would cement his place as a club legend, but not enough to keep him around. That very summer, Zidane would resign, and when he returned the following year, Bale found himself completely sidelined. Despite being fit, he was benched, mocked, and labelled as lazy. But the tipping point came in November 2019 after helping Wales qualify for the 2020 Euros. Bale would celebrate holding up a flag that read Wales, Golf, Madrid, in that order. It was meant as a joke between teammates, but Madrid saw it as treason. And after that, he was exiled. He wasn't given a proper farewell. In his final season, he played just 7 times. There was no tribute, no thanks, no send-off. Bale never fought the media. He let them paint the story. He didn't fit the club's PR machine. He didn't party, do interviews, or play politics. Gareth Bale was one of Real Madrid's greatest big game players, but instead of being celebrated, he was pushed aside, remembered more for golf memes than for goals that defined an era. To this day, Real Madrid continue on this tirade. They forced out Modric even after he just asked for 1 more year. They're trying to force out Rodrigo after he's won them 2 Champions Leagues. And you can say what you want about whether football's just a business, but at the end of the day, other clubs don't do this. Barcelona let Xavi and Iniesta finish out their careers, Puyol as well. Liverpool has let countless legends play out their twilight years. They kept Salah for all these years, Van Dijk, and if players leave, they leave on way better terms. So you tell me, is Real Madrid justified? One can't argue with their success. But is this the way you want to succeed? A club with no loyalty, often labelled as Glory Hunter FC. Is this the way you want to win? Or is winning just winning to you? Let me know in the comments and subscribe for more.